So, welcome to Motivation and Performance. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about why motivation is critical to performance and how we can now measure it, which is something that we've not been able to do before. So, welcome. Motivation, when I speak about motivation, it's all about energy. So motivation is the energy and drive that means that you get things done. Some people will think about it in terms of being in flow or being in the zone. And that's how you feel when you are full of this energy that we're calling motivation. So if you imagine you're going away on holiday, and you get to the airport, you've gone through security and everything, and you're going down this corridor, all glass on one side, and you look over and you see this lovely shiny plane, and you're getting all excited about going on holiday. You get into the aeroplane and you look to your left, and there is the cockpit and all the lights are on and you can see two people in there, so you're ready to go. And you go and sit down and you see the air stewards and stewardesses, and you get that aroma of airplane food. So everything's set to go. You know where you're going. You know that the pilot and the crew have got all the skills that they need to get you there. So you're all ready to go. And then suddenly you hear over the tannoy system, "I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that there's going to be a delay to your flight. The lorry with the fuel has had a problem and we haven't got enough fuel to reach our destination." Now, this is the same thing as motivation. So think of it as fuel. A lot of times when we're working with organizations, we work to really uncover the direction. What are the goals? What's the vision? What direction are we going on? Then we do an enormous amount of work to make sure that everybody has the skill set required to get us there. But what about motivation? If you don't have motivation, if you don't have that fuel, you might not get to where you're going, or you definitely won't get off the ground in the instance of the plane, and it could even skew your direction. So motivation as energy is necessary for a lot of things: for individual performance, for team performance, for engagement. Now this is a real passion of mine, because I've done a lot of work in engagement and used a variety of tools and questionnaires to measure engagement. But these questionnaires, really useful and necessary, they only look at it really from an organizational perspective. So what is it that the organization is or isn't doing? But it doesn't look at what the individual can do. So I do think that sometimes these questionnaires are a little bit like a letter to Santa Claus. You tell your children to write a letter to Santa Claus, and it's very rare to find the child who's going to say, "No, Mum, I've got everything I need. Everything's great. I don't need anything." If you ask people what can be improved, then it's quite likely that they are going to tell you and give you suggestions, even though things are good. So I think they've got a place, because there is an organizational responsibility, and I think that there's something missing, something that will enable each individual person to do something to raise their engagement, to raise their energy. It's also necessary for well-being. There's a lot of talk about well-being at the moment, and a lot of programs that very rightly concentrate on physical health, mental health, exercise, what you should be eating, rests and breaks, and all sorts of things like that. But what about energy? If you are doing something that doesn't drive you, that doesn't motivate you, then it's very likely that it's going to affect your well-being. Retention of staff, you know, this is why we look at all of these things, or one of the key reasons why we look at engagement and at performance, and it's to be able to create an environment where people can find what they need, and if they find what they need with you in the way that they need it, then they're more likely to stay. So it can help in all of these areas, and we need to look at it in terms of all of these areas. But then there are some other areas that it can help with too, and particularly the tool that I'm going to introduce you to. So it can help with communication. Sometimes knowing what's important for somebody else, what it is that drives them, and actually not sometimes, always, will help you communicate more effectively, will help you get the message across to more people more effectively. It will reduce conflict, as it will reduce misunderstanding. So understanding what drives somebody will definitely help reduce conflict. It can help in change management. There are people that are driven, for example, by security and safety, and those people need a different type of communication, a different type of message if they're going to get on board. And then ultimately, obviously, culture and leadership. What is it that your organization does? Do you have people who are driven to achieve in that context? What does it mean for culture? And how do the leaders of the organization talk to that, talk to what drives individual people? And another two areas are career and career choices. Can you really understand what it is that fires you up, that gets you going in the morning, and make sure that you choose a career that will satisfy that. And on the other side, with recruitment, so as an organization, do you have people who are really going to thrive in the environment that you're providing because they can find what drives them in the organization? So the expression, what gets measured gets done. One of the problems, I guess, that we've had with the whole area of motivation and of energy and drive is an inability to really measure it. How do you know how much energy someone has at a particular time, how much the energy the team has, the organization has, where it might be missing it, what it therefore needs to do to get that and move forward? And luckily, now we do have something that can measure it, which is what I want to talk to you about. So the origins of motivational maps are one man on the Dorset coast, James Sale, and he was a deputy head teacher at a school, and then he set up his own L&D company doing training and development. And one of the things out of many that he noticed was that really the difference that made the difference was the amount of energy and drive, how motivated people were to learn, to achieve. So they could have the same skill set, they could all know how to do the same thing, they could all be very aware of what it is that they were going to do, but then without that drive and motivation, some, you know, those that had it got there and those that didn't. So he started doing a lot of work and looked at a number of models, including Maslow, Edgar Schein's career anchors, the Enneagram, and looked at what all of these models were saying and came up with his own model called motivational maps. Now, the maps look at energy and motivation in three big clusters. So one's called relationship, then there's achievement, and then there's growth. And you can see that there are 9 motivators, so 3 motivators in each of them. And I'll very briefly go through what they all are. I'd encourage you not to get hung up on what they're called. You know, you've got to call them something, but I'll explain what these mean as I go. So, relationship motivators. You have those defender, which is about safety and security. You have friend, which is about belonging and building community. And then you have star, which is about getting external recognition. So all of these things are based on things that have happened. So something needs to exist for you to feel safe and secure. You need to have that community in order to feel that belonging, and you need to have done something in order to get that recognition and external recognition for what you've done. So much more focused on the past, and people who are driven by these motivators tend to, I've said here, resistant to change. It's not necessarily resistant to change. It's more that they need different information, and they need more precise information. They might need more information and maybe more time in order to make sure that they still feel safe and a part of something and recognized for what they've done. Then you've got the achievement motivators. These are much more grounded in the here and now. You have director. These are people who are driven by this, are driven by being in control of people and processes. Builder, which is the commercial aspect. So people here, and I've got a really interesting example I can go through, are driven by money and finances and that commercial reality. And then expert, that are driven by knowledge, by getting it and also imparting it, so sharing it. And finally, you've got the growth motivators, much more future orientated, therefore much quicker to want to change, and may even be the ones that generate the change. And here you've got creator, and they're looking for innovation, solving problems in new and creative ways. Spirit, which is about freedom and independence. And searcher, which is about making a difference and having a purpose. So those are the 3 clusters and the 9 motivators, really briefly. So how to use them? You can use them at all levels. So you can use them with individuals, you can use them with teams, and you can use them with organizations. And there are reports at each of those levels. So this is what the front page of a report looks like. I just took a picture of one of the ones that I've done when I started. Then there is this page. So in the report, it's a very simple, easy to read report. And this is on one of the pages further on in the report. I think it's page 13 or something like that. And what you get first of all is a number. So you see this 79%. So you get a percentage of how motivated a person is. So how much energy they have, and this is calculated as they answer the online questionnaire. And how I like to explain it is, if you see this as a battery, and you maybe think of your laptop and laptop battery, 100% means it's fully charged and probably plugged in at the mains. So you can be sure that you can have this laptop on and working at it, and you don't need to worry about the battery level. Now, as soon as you go out with your laptop to work, if you don't take the charger with you, or if you don't have somewhere to plug it in, gradually during the day that battery level is going to come down. Now, some people say that they can tell when the battery's getting low because the laptop starts to get slower. I'm obviously not that observant, or it really is so low on my priority list that I don't realize. But I have on occasions been caught out and I've just missed the little flashing light and the battery has run down, and the laptop's shut and powered down, and I've been left going, oh, what do I do now? It's a great analogy as well for how it can be with people. You know, have you ever had people in your organization who seem to be fantastic and then suddenly they go off sick, and they go off long-term sick, and you sat there going, but I didn't know that they were ill. Nobody noticed the signs, and suddenly they're not there anymore. Or maybe not sick, but they suddenly hand in their notice one day. Now, somebody can hand in their notice and it can be because they've had a fantastic opportunity somewhere else. But it can also be because they've just had enough and you've not noticed. So that's how you can look at it when you're looking at other people, but also for yourself. What are your energy levels like? So this is a very interesting page in the report. Then you get all of the 9 motivators on a graph here, and these numbers here come in a different part of the report, but you get a graph like this that gives you the how important each of the motivators are for you. Now, we tend to only really look at the top 3 motivators. There's only so much that you can have on your radar, and therefore in the report you also get a number out of 10, so you can take it as a percentage on that battery level of how much of this particular motivator have you got. So in this instance, we've got searcher, which is making a difference and having a purpose, and that's 80% satisfied. We've got, there we go. We've got friend, which is about belonging and community, and that's 80% satisfied. And then we've got spirit, which is independence and freedom, and that's at 70%. Satisfied. What you've also got here are these 2 orange lines. Anything above the line is an extreme in that direction, which means that basically this person is very focused on making a difference. And if they don't have this, then the rest sort of falls away. And then in this direction, so this line here, anything on or below that line is an extreme in this direction. So if this person had star, which is external recognition, at an 8, then it might be something that actually demotivates them as well. So you get, or the individual gets all of this information. And if you were working with the maps, you'd have this and a little bit more to work with. So here are a couple of examples. Let me move myself. I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller. There you go. And then you can see the whole screen. So what I've done here is, this is somebody's map. And this is the information that they get in the map. And then this is a summary that all licensed practitioners in the maps get. So this is a recent one that I did. And this person obviously saw this bit here. They didn't see this. So as you can see here, this person is very, very focused on freedom and independence. And it's also fully satisfied. So what I learnt was that this person had come out of a job that they weren't enjoying and is now working for themselves, has made that move, and it's like, right, I've sorted that. That's my top thing, is my freedom and my independence in how I work, when I work, and all of that. You can also see that the next one here, which is making a difference and having a purpose, is also on that 30 line. So quite important. However, the satisfaction score is at a 3 out of 10, as is director, which is being in charge of people and resources. They also have star, again, so external recognition, at an 8 out of 10. So it's something that could possibly demotivate them. Now, what was interesting here is when I looked at the summary, which is this summary here, so you get all the motivators in order, all the scores as you have here, but then I get more than the top 3 in terms of satisfaction. I get all of them. And there's also one bit I haven't spoken about, is that it also measures motivation with the 3 clusters that I'd mentioned before. So this person very much are focused on those growth motivators. So spirit, searcher, and creator. Yeah. And it's the relationship motivators that are lowest. So this doesn't mean that this person isn't skilled in whatever skills are required or come with those motivators. It just shows that this is something that doesn't drive this person. So essentially, something that could happen here is that when this person is really in the zone and really focused and really enjoying life and enjoying work, because they have all the independence that they need, they know they're making a difference and they're in charge of people and resources, then sometimes what they could forget to do is communicate with people, bring people along, say well done to somebody, create that community, make people feel safe. Why? Not because they can't do it, but because they forget, because it's not what drives them, it's not what gives them energy. So that's an interesting conversation to have. As you can see, the total energy score, if you like, or satisfaction score, motivation score, is 72%, which isn't bad. It's not 80 plus, which is optimal, but it's quite good. And the reason for that is because the top one is satisfied at a 10%, a 10 out of 10, so 100%. What was really interesting here is that when I showed this person this chart here, well, first of all, when I looked at it, I thought, that's interesting. They're all at a 3 apart from the top. And I wondered whether this person had just, didn't really want to fill this in, had just filled it out randomly and had given everything a 3, apart from the top one, which was a very clear focus. Or what else could be going on? So when I showed this to her, she burst out crying. And she burst out crying because she knew she'd got a big tick on one thing, because that had been her focus of gaining her independence and doing something herself. But it was a visual representation of the fact that there was so much more to do, and that she really wasn't satisfied and was a bit lost, didn't know how she was making a difference, didn't have a team of people working with her, wasn't earning the money that she needed. And even though that pat on the back and the external recognition wasn't key, she wasn't getting it either. So that gives you an idea of the sort of conversation that we were having. Another example that somebody I did a bit earlier, and you can see here the motivation score is at 42, which means it isn't good, and means that it's, well, isn't good, means that it's low. So there's a conversation there around what's happening there. And the reason it's low is because the top 3 motivators are at 40, 40, and 60%. So this person is driven by what's important to them is money, independence, making a difference. And then very close by, you've got being creative and innovative. Now, there's an extreme here, but not at the bottom. So money, just to simplify it, was a very strong motivator, and not being satisfied. Now, this was an interesting one for me, because I hadn't at that stage worked with anybody who was really driven by money and the commercial side of things. And the conversation was fabulous, because we really got to the bottom of what that meant. And that's one of the things that you have to do when you're working with the motivators, is really understand what the motivators mean. So for this person, yes, there was an element of it that was money for him, but it was actually all about school fees. So how do I get enough money in to pay the school fees? The more interesting piece was that actually this was a lot about how this person works with clients and what is their focus. So his focus is to improve the financial results, the commercial results for his clients. And he gets upset if he can't do that, if they don't let him do that. So if you see, you've got money, which in this case is really more commercial side of things. You've got spirit, which is about freedom and independence, and you've got searcher, which is about making a difference and having a purpose. He was working for a client, he's a consultant, he was working for a client who had handcuffed him, really, shackled him, wouldn't let him move beyond certain set parameters, whereas he knew that he could do things in a different way and get them even better results. It therefore meant he wasn't really making enough of a difference to them. And on top of that, they were paying him a fixed fee for the work, and there were times where he really felt that they weren't paying enough for the amount of time and effort and that he was putting in. So it was interesting because I said, well, what if you could renegotiate the contract so that they pay you less in terms of a fixed fee or retainer, but then you agree on the results, and they pay you on results. So they pay you a bonus, or they pay you the rest of the amount on the actual financial results of the organization that you are able to influence. And his response to me was, Sonia, I would run up the M3 naked if I could achieve that, or if I could work for an organization in that way. So it was very clear some of the things that he needed to do. So that was really looking at it from an individual perspective. You can also work with teams, and there's a separate report with the teams. There's a little bit more information, so you get information about how quickly people are likely to adopt new things and to adopt change. You get a graph that shows you shared motivators. So if you had some people, if you had some of these sort of orange blocks here, it would mean that there were some people that had it as one of their top 3 motivators, but also somebody that had it as their last motivator, so they could potentially be conflict. There's also a chart that shows you motivators that are compatible and those where there could be possible tension. You get then a bar chart for the team. So you get a bar chart that tells you what the team's overall motivators are. So this team is driven by making a difference, doing new things, solving problems in new ways, and learning. And then you get a very useful data table, which again, and this is a friend, my son, me and my husband, so it's a made up team. You get a table which basically tells you the order of the motivators. It tells you what people have what motivators as their first, second and third, and their lowest. And you can see at one glance really whether there are any conflicts. So if there were any reds or oranges in these columns, so somebody has it as the main thing that drives them and somebody's got it at their lowest, then comes out there. And then you also get the individual results, so the percentage of motivation and then the satisfaction score. So in here you can see that there aren't really conflicts, that most of us are driven by having a purpose and making a difference, and then doing new things and solving things. That the lowest one is defender, which is about safety. So this is a team that's quite happy to take risks. You can also see here that none of us really want to be in charge, and none of us are driven by money. The overall score for motivation is reasonable, but it means that it's not at 80%, which is the optimum, 80% and above. So it means that there are one or two things to fix. And if you look along here, you will see that there is one person who has a much lower motivational score than the rest. So it's not about a general lack of motivation in the team. It's much more about one individual struggling in some way. And so you can work with the team, with the individuals, to really help them reframe how they think about their roles and work in different ways. So if you have any questions, then I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm going to stop the recording here so that I don't have you in the recording, as you've asked me not to, and then I will pick it up again when I talk to you about the program, if you're interested in motivational maps. So how to become a licensed practitioner. So I'm a business practitioner, which means that I can train people to work with motivational maps. And there are 3 steps. So step 1 is I have a very short online course with videos and materials that will give you a really good idea about the maps, and has some of this information that I've gone through today. Then I do the majority of the courses online. So I use Zoom like this, and I do it online. Let me make this up a little bit bigger. There you go. And I do it over 2 days. So ideally 2 consecutive days, but it depends on the group. And I do 9 till 3-ish on one day, and then 9 till 1 on the second day. And then as part of your package, you get a number of maps, and that I have a requirement that you can sell these maps, and I have a requirement that you come back to me and go through the feedback process with me with those 2 maps, just so that you and I can make sure that you have all the support really that you need to make the first couple of times that you feedback a map go really well. So in terms of investment, it's £999 plus that, payable upfront. It does include 9 maps, which you can then sell and actually recoup most of the investment in the course. And if you wrap the map in a coaching process, feedback process, then you'll make money on it. I haven't got a set date. I have groups of people that contact me and individuals that contact me, and then I make up a group, and I have done some one-on-ones as well. As I've said, the course online runs over 2 days, 9 till 3 on the first day and 9 till 1 more or less on the second day. I can also run these in-house for organisations who want to have their own coaches or their own learning and development people trained up to use them internally. And there are a number of options that we can choose to use, from doing it online in the same way, or a 1-day face-to-face session with a group of people, or 2 days if those people want to have some additional coaching and feedback skills with the maps. So if you're interested in any of these options, then do get in touch. do drop me a line at sonia@discoveryourmotivationtoday.com. But you've all got my my email address anyway, or give me a call and we can arrange to do it. So thanks for being here today, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Cheers.